Chapter 13. Along with the dresses and numerous silk undergarments was a note telling me when St. John's limousine would pick me up and carry me to the hotel. Crystal had gone to work, and I spent my time trying to fix my unruly hair until a knock came. The woman introduced herself as a stylist. She was sent by St. John. Just in time to save the day. By 9 o'clock I had dressed and waited for the limo. When I peered out the window, I saw the limo and out stepped St. John dressed in a traditional black designer tux with white shirt and black bow tie. When he reached the door, I opened it. He had a bouquet of red roses and handed it to me. I felt special again. Then he pulled a black box from his pocket and opened it. The most beautiful teardrop necklace of diamonds and rubies fell into his hands. "It matches your dress." "How did you know?" "I didn't know, so I bought one for each dress." His blue-gray eyes didn't lie or appear false, and because of that I found him most attractive. He was indeed appealing with his good looks and easy manner. Not as attractive as Mr. Black, but who was? He had coarse black and white hair, and he could have been a ringer for George Clooney at 40. When Charles smiled, first let down my guard because his smile was so straightforward and honest. I couldn't imagine that man wanting to tie me up and spank me. His quiet eyes hid a natural quest for excitement and radiated sex appeal. I guess I'm attracted to quiet men. I discovered that I was attracted to this quiet storm, this temptation in black. He walked me to the car, his driver opened the door, and I climbed in. Charles St. John strolled to the other side, slid his quiet handsome self in and faced me. "I hope you don't think that I asked you out because of my grief. I noticed you, and you remind me." He stared long but didn't complete the sentence. "I know it's too soon to say that I am attracted to you, and hope you will consider dating me." What the fuck? I can't date you or anyone with Black dogging my every move. He's waiting for me to slip up, and then I won't get a chance to get my son back. I know you have a son, and I wouldn't do anything to cause you any problems. As a matter of fact, I can probably help you, because I have lawyers on my payroll that specialize in family matters. Charles, don't want to talk about that now. I'm happy that you invited me out, and I will have a chance to relax for once. We arrived at the hotel, and it was more like an opening for a movie. Max's fundraiser was different from many hotel openings. It was filled with older, reserved billionaires. Charles's hotel had young and exciting people from different backgrounds who came to drink, dance, and get laid. Where does St. John fit in? I questioned. We stepped out of the limo, and cameras were flashing all around, and I was blinded by them. Charles grabbed my arm and looped it under his, and led me through the doors and into the entrance of this magnificent palace with chandeliers hanging from the ceiling every few yards. Someone pulled St. John in the direction of a group of men and asked that he introduce me. "Is she your daughter?" Charles smiled and said, "Good Lord, man, I'm only 35. It must be the hair." And then I heard whispers ringing like the peal of a bell. "Blackstone, Blackstone, Blackstone." I turned to see Max sauntering in with Ms. Corday. I guessed they were an item now. The smile on her face signaled that she had been fucked within an inch of her life. She clung to his arm as if he was the last man on earth, and he was my last man on earth. Glancing at Corday, I spotted her leaning in and whispering in Max's ear. His eyes shifted my way, he pulled his arm from hers and strode in my direction. St. John had been corralled by a group of women, dying for his attention. I found the nearest bar and ordered wine, and then I heard, What are you doing here and with St. John? I turned and looked into his incredibly handsome face. I could feel the intense longing for whatever he could give me, and that was just at a glance with his devilish green eyes. You have no right to ask me anything. Is he bothering you, Alex? St. John asked. I turned to see Charles standing close behind me with a drink in his hand. He's calling you Alex now? Max's voice lowered a few octaves. This is my hotel, Blackstone, and this is my party, and she is my guest. I did not invite you. Do I have to have you removed? Don't worry. I'm leaving. Max left wearing a sinister expression, his brow furrowed. I had never seen his face truly angry. A chill crossed my spine and left me cold. The warmth of St. John's arm gave me comfort. Don't worry, Alex. He can't hurt you, not with me around. Max would never try to hurt me intentionally. But he has, hasn't he? You two have a son together, and he bribed a judge to give him custody. From my investigation, he and the judge were roommates in college. That is something that is not common knowledge, especially for the type of lawyer who represented you. It was all I could afford, I murmured, angry to find out the truth about Max's underhanded dealings. The cards were stacked against you. Even if you brought in an expensive lawyer who would cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, it would not be enough for a billionaire who has connections and who knows everyone's secrets. There is only one man in this town that can handle Maximilian. Whoever he is, I can't afford him. You are standing here with him, and he finds you ravishing. I looked at Charles St. John and saw him for the first time. He was as handsome as Max. He began to appeal to me in a way that Max had not. Because I was so in love with Max, I couldn't stand to look at another man. Because Max had introduced me to his sexual lifestyle, I had forgotten that there were men who were like I used to be, vanilla. Because I was afraid of Max, I ran from him to make a life for myself. I had been running in a circle. There was no place to run far enough where he could not find me and my son. So now I had to take a stand and fight him. And Charles could be my ammunition and my shield. Alex, I don't have children because my wife died early and she had trouble conceiving. I understand how empty she felt, and I don't want you to go through that. I will do everything I can to get your son back. I need a job, and not in a hotel as a cocktail waitress. Can you help me? Max owns most of the companies in Seattle, and he sent out a memo that I was not to be hired by any firm, hotel, bank, or newspaper. I never received that memo. I own several banks, and if you're serious, then I can hire you tomorrow. I leaned over and kissed Charles on the cheek with enthusiasm of a teenage girl receiving a corsage for the prom. His face lit up, and the pain of loss was erased from his brow. Let's have a glass of champagne, St. John stated eagerly. I thought you didn't drink. That's only at meetings. I like to keep a clear head and watch my staff. I need to know who throws down more liquor than they should. In my business, you have to know everything that's going on. I have airline contracts, and my managers have to be level-headed or else people will die. Take Max, that man never misses a meeting, night or day, and whatever country his business takes him to, he is there and cold sober. I admire him. I don't know how he does it. I guess that will end now that he has a son to care for. I know how he does it. He gets in a big dose of fucking, and then marches off without a care in the world. That was until I left him, and he found out he had a child. I bet his business is suffering now. A business partner took St. John from our table, so I headed for the nearest restroom. I hadn't made it to the door when I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was a light touch but a firm one. I knew it was not Max because his touch caused my body to quake whenever he placed his hand on me. I turned around to see Blake Scotto dressed in a dark suit and white shirt with an earpiece dangling from his ear. "What are you doing here, Blake?" "I'm working. Some of us have to work for a living to pay for a meal out once a month." He gave a light smile. His best assets were his teeth and his smile. I thought he should smile more. That smile could stop a woman in her tracks. "I would ask you the same thing if I didn't know that you are hanging with the billionaire club." "I wouldn't exactly say hanging with billionaires." "You don't hang with them." "I couldn't keep up with them if I wanted to, and I don't want to." "I saw you earlier, and I wanted to speak to you. I want to tell you how amazing you look. Expensive jewels do nothing for you." Blake's fingers caressed my necklace, and my eyes followed his fingers. I looked around to see if St. John had seen Blake. St. John's back was turned. It might prove awkward explaining to Charles that first knew his security officer. Not that I cared to make the explanation, but I just wasn't in the mood to answer questions. "You were more beautiful without all those garish diamonds. But if I had diamonds to give you, I would probably shower them on you too." I explained to you that I'm not that kind of girl. I was thrust into this world, and I can't seem to escape. If you ever get out, call me. You do have my card? I shook my head yes. He put his hand to his ear. I'm being contacted. I think my boss is worried about our conversation. We're not supposed to fraternize with the guests, especially a special personal guest of Mr. St. John. It was great seeing you, Blake. At that moment I wanted to be BB, before Blackstone. I wanted to be 21 in my own little apartment in Brooklyn, dating casually, no problems but one, and it sure wasn't men. Now I was miserable. Maybe that was what happened when you fell in love young. You were perpetually miserable when you couldn't be with the one you loved, and didn't want to love the one you were with. I drank expensive champagne all night with Charles to celebrate our newly formed partnership. Charles and first got drunk, and when first entered his limo for my ride home, one of my expensive shoes fell somewhere under the seat. Arriving at my door, I stepped out of the car and looked down. I couldn't walk. Charles swept me up in his arms. I looked at him with a drunken gaze. I wanted it to be Max. I held him around his neck with both hands and placed my cheek close to his, and we both felt the yearning. We were two eager souls drifting in each other's direction, ready for a collision. Standing on the porch of my bungalow, the light provided a spotlight aimed at our face. Not that anything would occur, but I didn't want Max to make something out of nothing to use against me. Crystal had turned on the light early, in case I made it home late. I fidgeted around in my small evening bag that could only hold a pack of cigarettes. And since I didn't smoke, I found a small comb, a lipstick, and finally my keys. I had left my phone at home, charging in the docking station, and when I opened the door, I heard it ringing on the dining room table. There was no way I would answer it because it was Max. I chose to ignore it and concentrate on the very handsome, very sane, and very tempting Charles St. John. Charles held me in his arms. My glance fell to the floor and I motioned with my head, and he deposited me with ease before kissing my cheek and pulling down my long dress that had somehow tightened and wrapped around my thighs. What a wonderful gesture, I thought. I had a great time. I was trying to be polite without trying to be obligated. Maybe you would consider another date with me? What the fuck can I say? Yes, I want to date you because I'm starved for attention from a man. Yes, I want to date you because you may be the only man that can prevent Max from keeping my son. Maybe. But for now, I have to get up early tomorrow and prepare for a new job. As well as having a roommate that will probably be in here asking about my date with you. She has a crush on you. I smiled, hoping he would let me off the hook and take up with Crystal instead. You don't have to go to work tomorrow. Just rest and prepare to work at my bank. I will have my secretary email you some paperwork that will explain your duties. I should have everything arranged, and by next week you can start. I don't want. He placed his finger to my mouth to silence me. And then he placed his lips over his finger, and then removed both. I felt young again. I was being wooed, and not expected to receive a body in the middle of the night, telling me that he needed my body parts, as if I could package them one at a time and send them to him. I hadn't missed that about Max. I just missed Max. Charles left and closed the door behind him. I watched through the picture window and saw his limo pull away. I stood in the middle of the floor, dancing and breathing, not knowing which way to turn. I knew I had to lock the door. Reaching for the lock, I heard a knock, and in strutted Max. There he stood in a black suite and white shirt. He'd obviously had time to change. Maybe he'd gotten in a fuck with Ms. Corday before coming for a second round. I gazed down at his well-shined black shoes. No loafers. This was not a casual call. In his hand, he held a paper. Did you see the New York Post? He asked, waving it in front of him. I never buy the Post. It's nothing but a glorified rag. In the Post, there are pictures of you and St. John. The question on the front page is, who is that woman at his side? Are we seeing the next Mrs. St. John? He said, reading the paper and then looking up at me. Very soon the world will know who you are, and you and our son will not be safe. Now it was clear why Max didn't invite me to his functions. He was trying to protect me. That may explain one thing, but it does not explain why you would take Corday to the opening of Charles's hotel. You're taking to referring to him as Charles. Max bristled. The person you saw was not me, Alex. It became clear about Corday, but it took a little time before I knew the answer. Who was it? I wanted him to answer this question. Then I wouldn't have to make wrong assumptions and drive myself crazy. The person you saw was Jonas. His eyes lowered. I have businesses all over the world, and sometimes I can't make all of my meetings. I can't allow my competitors to see my weakness. St. John is one, and now he knows that you are mine, and he will do anything to get you. He's not what you think he is. And neither are you, and don't refer to me as yours, as if I'm one of your possessions. I deserve that, Alex. You don't know how vicious he can be. He moved closer, and the electricity that existed between us had grown. Not seeing him and wanting him had heightened my sexual senses. His face excited me, his eyes stunned me, and I could not and would not move from that spot. His smell aroused my basest of instincts, and I waited for him to take me and do whatever he wanted. Tie me up, fuck me, and then whip my ass, you name it, he was welcome to do it all. I was open to anything at that moment. It had been too long since he put his mouth on my clit, and it had been too long since I had had an orgasm. Holding on to my senses, I said, what can be more vicious than taking a child from his mother? Max's head fell low. He felt my hurt. He raised his head and placed his hands to my face. Not telling a father that he has a son. I froze. Can we go to your room? His voice was soft. I didn't expect that. I wasn't used to that. I didn't want that. I wanted my take charge man again. Not begging to take me to my room, but dragging me as he tore my clothes off along the way. I wanted to go scratching and clawing his back, in full resistance. But I went shamelessly quiet, and he remained the gentleman I thought I wanted, and that he tried to become. I grabbed his hand and led him to my little room with my white sheets and white comforter, on a white wrought iron bed with a wrought iron headboard. I turned on my old white painted lamp with the new lampshade. He placed his smartphone on the distressed white table under my painted lamp. He dropped his house keys and a black silk ribbon and his prep school tie all on that table. And we sat facing each other, on the edge of the bed. He looked around. "This is me," I said. "Not that palace I lived in, which you owned." "What do you want me to do, Alex?" "I want my son back, and I want to get a job that you can't take from me. I can't give back my wealth, it's me just as much as my face or Jonas. I'm stuck with this." He paused, searching my eyes and hoping I would understand. "You shouldn't work at places where you can be kidnapped and held for ransom. Why do you think I took my son? Once my enemies discover that they can get to me through my son and you, I could lose everything that I care about." I recognized the truth when I heard it. Now I realized that he was concerned about our son's safety and my well-being. "I will give you back our son against my better judgment, and leave you alone to work out your life. But you will have to accept a bodyguard. I know you are young, and things have been happening fast." "Oh, Max, just give me a little time and you will be so proud of me, then we will take it from there." As usual, I had selective hearing. I didn't hear about the bodyguard until it was too late. I agreed to what Max wanted and blanked out the rest. I had this thing about not hearing something and not reading the small print, which had come back to bite me in the ass, literally. "I have another stipulation." "What?" "I want the opportunity to introduce you to a higher level of reaching an orgasm." That sounded great to me. I didn't think that there was anything that I hadn't done with Max. My Max was back and in full force. He gazed at me with a strange look, eyes dark and brow furrowed, and then he reached for my ruby-red evening gown and with both hands pulled it, tearing the expensive silk gown until the slit reached under my breasts. "You didn't accept my clothes, so you will never wear St. John's dress again." I hadn't planned on ever wearing it again, but my clit heated up to its boiling point when I understood how jealous he was when he thought there was another man snooping around. He had marked his territory like the alpha male that he was. Pulling my panties down, I stepped out of them. He sniffed the crotch before discarding them in the corner, and then he inserted his finger into my vagina and looped it around. Pulling it out, he placed it to his nose. "You're tight and moist. I can tell that St. John didn't get to first base. Tell me you're mine." "I'm yours." "You will never belong to another man. Maybe there is something in the contract that I signed when I agreed to be Max's sub that I didn't read. Perhaps I should take a look at it. Give it a once-over to be sure I didn't miss something that may have long-term consequences to me. After all, I'm only 23, who knows what may happen in the future." He put his head between my legs, and his tongue found my clit. He rose up and said, "Your bud is eager." Just when I was enjoying every minute of his salacious lovemaking, He reached for something and said, "Here. Tie this ribbon around your eyes." "What?" "Do it. You have to trust me, Alex. That is part of our life together. I tried being another person. I tried seeing you as a mother and not my partner, and that didn't work. We are sexual human beings, and we are drawn to each other because of our attraction and the way we connect during sex." I tried to analyze what Max said in those few moments. It made sense. I could recognize when I heard the truth, and the truth was that we were attracted to each other whether we were parents or not. When we were in bed, nothing mattered but the love and the loving we gave each other. I tied the black ribbon around my eyes, and I felt completely vulnerable. I trusted him. I was eager to please him. I still thought of the woman who was strangled in his hotel, but when he placed his face back in a familiar position, between my legs, I forgot about anything but having him make love to me. Not seeing anything connected me to my body in the most erotic way. All my senses came alive, and I felt each flick of his tongue as he licked my folds and the creases between my legs and mound. His tongue moved slowly as he inched me toward an orgasm. He paused a moment to say, "I love sucking your clit. I can feel it vibrate in my mouth, and it makes me harder. I can't imagine his dick being any harder than it is." My leg eased along his rod, and it felt hotter than any time before. I wrapped my legs around his body and begged, "Can I come? Now you are being my submissive." I could feel through the blindfold that he had a smile on that gorgeous face when he planted his head between my legs. I had given in to him in bed. It was what I needed, and it was all that Max desired, to have his way with me in bed. He flicked his tongue on my clit, and damn, I had an orgasm that made my scalp tremble and my body shake. I reached to untie the ribbon. "No, you will keep it on until we are finished, and because you have been naughty and decided to date another man, I'm going to paddle you with my hand, and then I'll decide what to do next." But nothing, Alex. And Max took my hands and placed them behind my back. "Now I want you to suck me without touching me with your hands. Only your mouth." He pulled me up and propped my back against the iron bed and straddled me. "Take it and put it in your mouth." I felt for it with my mouth, and it was directly in front of me, extending like a cobra ready to strike. Leaning into my mouth, Max guided it in, hitting my lips along the way. I took it in and glided my tongue around and over his slit. He leaned over me, thrusting in and out. I felt the perspiration tinkle from his chest. His smell was intoxicating. The more sweat poured into my face, the more I became excited. I felt the telltale signs of his orgasm. He was on the edge of coming, and I wanted to push him over into the abyss, as he had done to me. "I'm there, Alex. I want this now." I slowed my movements with my mouth, and I reached around him for his hard buttocks. I felt them stiffen, and I dug my false nails into them, and he flinched from the pain. "Don't hold back. I need to come now. Don't tell me when and how you need to come. You are not in control, my handsome fuck. If you are in such control of your body, then you don't need to beg me for your orgasm," I thought. I began to work my mouth, sucking in and out, demonstrating to him what I was capable of doing. I sucked him hard, and he spilled his hot cum in my mouth. It kept coming until it flowed like a river down the sides of my chin, and he still kept fucking my mouth. "I can't stop. I'm having another one," he confessed. The feral grunts and moans were akin to a wounded animal. And I knew that a wounded animal was dangerous. How are you capable of doing this to me? Max paused to take a breath and remove his dick from my mouth. He fell on the side of me, panting. You are a dangerous girl, Alex. I have to keep an eye on you. I smiled a devilish smile, and he knew that he had created a monster. I don't like that smile. What are you going to do about it? In that second, he turned me over and began smacking my butt. Stop it, Max. I was just kidding, I said, laughing. I'm not. I felt his dick rise when he leaned close to smack my butt. Then he stopped, and one hand moved to my clit and the other gripped my ass. He circled my ass with his tongue, making it moist, and then he forced his wonderful face between my ass cheeks. I could hear and feel his breath, and then I felt that glorious tongue, by now my best friend in the world. A friend I could depend on to satisfy me sexually and make me happy when I was sad. A friend that would be there rain or shine when I was lonely, and a friend that would never let me down. My friend pulled away from me, and his friend thrust his dick into my vagina and filled my walls with his penis. I can't seem to get enough of you. What's going to become of me, Alex? He said, fucking me in and out and fucking some more. He placed his hand to buttress my stomach from the onslaught of his hard, needy dick that was plundering every part of my body. The dark scarf had blinded me, and my senses were acute. I felt every blow his long, hard dick inflicted on me, and through the pain and pleasure, I had my third orgasm of the night. His breathing was erratic, and his dick still hard. He was not done with me. I said that I would introduce you to something perverse in lovemaking, but I don't know whether you are ready yet. What is it, Max? You will have to wait until we are married to find out, because you are not ready, and your room is not conducive for this. We need silence and freedom from anyone knowing what we are doing. I bet your roommate has a glass to the wall. I have a house just fit for that. It is being built for us at this time. Max just said that he would give me time, and now he is building houses without consulting me. I don't know about this. And, did I forget about Charles through the incredible lovemaking Max just laid on me? What am I doing? I don't know how to tell Max that I have a job at one of St. John's banks. Well, he never discloses anything to me. I guess this will have to be on a need-to-know basis, and he doesn't need to know, at least not now, just when I got my Mr. Black back.